All right, we're live. The other day I was debating with someone. They said words to this effect that God cannot be so mean to his children. If there is a God, how can he allow this, that, and the other? The same old argument as always. I'm really starting to understand the mind of the modern man here and why it's so hard for them to think, love, or even respect God. They only see things through their lens, how they think it should go. The modern soft parenting, kids are your equal mentality, it's ruining children, it's ruining parents, and it's making it harder to teach them things. Kids are not your friends. Your children are not there to be your best friends when they're 1 and 2 years old. Your children are not your equals. They don't know what you know. They can't see what you see through the experience, through the trials and tribulations, how you got to where you are. They're 1 and 2, 3, 4 years old. They don't know a thing about anything. How can they be your equal? How can they be your friends? They are here for you to mold and make them a person of value, a person who is a positive contributor to society. I mean, when your children mess up and you say, don't do that, do you just, oh, okay, go ahead and do it? Do you do that? No, because whatever you're telling them no to is probably detrimental. You don't just clean up their mess and go, oh well, and move on, do you? Well, I hope not. They're not going to learn. I'm certain that there's boundaries, and I'm hoping you let them see the consequences of their actions. When you talk to your 1 or your 2-year-old and you read to them from a book or you discuss things with them, you don't talk to them as equals, eye to eye. You talk to them as a teacher, as a parent, to someone who needs to learn. You don't let them plan your day. Most of them would say, well, stay home and play with me. They don't understand you got to go to work. They don't understand the things you have to do. They're 1 and 2 year old. They only see the immediate, the first moment or two, and then the next moment or two. They don't see 8, 9 hours out. You don't let them plan your meals, do you? Of course not. If you did, it'd be nothing but chicken nuggets and mac and cheese all the time. And that's not good for them. There's a time for nuggets and mac and cheese and pizza, but not all the time. There has to be meat and potatoes and every now and then, I guess, a veggie. What they don't see is the simple truth behind John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Now, God so loved the world. It's a verse we all know, and we recognize it instantly. But think about this. God so loved the world that rebelled against him. God so loved the world that disobeys him. God so loved the world that turns, and rejects him daily. God so loved that world. The world that does not love him back. A world that constantly tries to make him in their image rather than to strive to be in his image. A world that, since they cannot fathom him, they cannot understand him in their understanding, they ignore him. They deny him. And frankly, they twist him into their vision of him rather than seeing him as the God of the universe, the creator of all, who is holy, righteous, just, pure, wrathful. They don't want to see all that. Do you know why the Israelites always went into idolatry? Because they could control their little g gods, the ones that they created. They could show up to these little g gods when they wanted to. They could do what they want to and have no consequences, because an idol that you create has no power over you except what power you give it, has no expectations of you, no standards, no boundaries for you. Therefore, it's easy. No effort involved. Basically, because it was easier than serving a holy, righteous God, the God that asks you to be holy as he is holy, the God that sets standards, it's easier to create something and call that a God and worship it. Now, I honestly have never understood how you can create something and call it all powerful, call it able to do whatever you want. But in today's world, you see it everywhere you look. The popular preachers of today, I won't name names this morning, they preach of what God owes you. They preach what you deserve. They preach what you want. They preach that you will get your best life on this earth. Not a single word about his greatness, his holiness, his expectations, his standards, his expectations of how you should live your life. Because that's not popular. Nobody wants somebody else to tell them how to live their life, including God. No one wants God to tell them how to live their lives. That's why they have little g gods. Man has become the God they want. They have set the rules. They have set the standards and the expectations, and they look to other men, other man-made things, rather than seeking the God that actually is. Do you really want a God that you created, that you are greater than, that can really do nothing, can't even move itself? You have to do that. Most people do, because then they're free to live as they want, do as they please, and they don't have to maintain an illusion of righteousness. Yes, I said illusion of righteousness. When you serve a holy, righteous God, you have an image you have to maintain because you are his ambassador. You are his representative. You are all that they are ever going to see of him. You have a certain reputation to keep up. And most don't want to have to do that. Why? Because it's hard. Have to put forth effort. They would rather fake it and fool people into believing they're good people. But what I find most interesting is we know that God knows that few there are that will truly follow him, that will truly follow his ways, that will truly follow his rules. Knows we're going to constantly reject him, but he still loves. He still cares. He still gives. He still calls everyone to him. Matthew 7:13, enter ye in at the strait gate, for wide is the gate, broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in. Because strait is the gate, narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. God knows all that he does is only going to be recognized by a few. He knows that all that he calls, only a few are going to answer. He knows this. and he does it anyway. That's what is so amazing, is he knows the majority will not accept him, will not see him, will not do anything except walk away from him. And he still calls all to repentance. He knew the path to destruction was far more attractive. He knew the world's pleasures of the flesh, would really captivate man's attention. He also knew that many would find a righteous, holy life, one forsaking the pleasures of this world, would be hard and shunned by most. He knew that. He does it anyway. He calls anyway. He came and he died anyway. Unrequited love. It's hard to live a holy and righteous life. It is. It's hard to constantly watch your language, your heart, your eyes, your ears, your hands, your feet. There's so much enticement in this world. There really, really is. There's so much. And the marketers of those pleasures, they know what they're doing. They've had years to perfect their craft. They make it look enticing. They make it look fun. But they don't show you the car accidents that take lives from drunk drivers. They don't show you the broken lives from drugs. They don't show you the consequences of the things they're marketing. The sin, the wasted money, the wasted time, the warping of mind and body. Drugs will do that. The warping of the mind and body, the waste of the very precious time you have here. They don't tell you that. Now, when I started, I said we're going to have an unrequited love story. And this is what we're about to get to. Romeo and Juliet, that's not the story you need. Jack and Rose on Titanic, not the story you need. The Notebook, none of those are the love story you need. The love story you need is in that Bible right behind me. The Old Testament, the New Testament, paired together, show an image of the love of the Creator from the very beginning to today. The things he has done. The sacrifices he made for us. And how we just kept walking away. The Bible is the greatest love story. It tells of a God who does it all. Constantly does it all. And yet is rejected time and time and time again by those he does it for. He created this world. He gave it to man. Gave dominion to man. Said, this one little thing, everything else is yours. And man went after that one little thing. Man was naked. God clothed him. Man was not fit for the garden. God put him out and gave man a purpose outside of the garden. In the garden, man's purpose was to be a friend to God. Outside the garden, man's purpose is to live, struggle, find God. Man could no longer walk with God in his sin state. Man was in sin. So God gave a sacrifice system that man might still have fellowship with him by having their sins forgiven through this system, so that a yearly price paid could forgive the sins so we could maintain our fellowship with God. But man rejected a God who was not present. But remember this. It was man's own fault for God not being present. God didn't walk away from us. We ran from him. Man sinned, left the Lord their God, got punished, got enslaved, and then they remembered the God of their fathers, and they cried out repeatedly. And he rescued them repeatedly. Then the prophets came. Messengers came to man to remind them of him. They killed said prophets and messengers. Finally, when the time was right, God himself came down, born of a virgin. He sent his son. They killed the prophets. They killed the messengers. The earth that he created, they claimed for their own and refused to recognize the Creator. Then he sent his son, saying, surely they're going to accept my son. Surely they would accept God himself coming to this earth, his creation. And they would see him. They would acknowledge him. They would end their wicked ways. No. They sought to kill him. They sought to persecute him because he wasn't what they thought he should have been. We have the same problem today. He was a threat to their way of life. He was a threat to their power. He was a threat to their ambition. And he was a threat to their money. Same as today. He's a threat to people's ways of life. He's a threat to their power, their ambition. As the world sees it. But not only did God come to this earth born of a virgin, he died on a cross. Not because they killed him. They did not. It was something laid down from the beginning of time that he knew he had to do. He had to die that we might be able to fellowship with him, be in his presence. A blood sacrifice. They wanted to kill him. They wanted to persecute him. They wanted to shut him up because he was teaching something that threatened their ambition, threatened their power, threatened their money. But their actions played right into God's plan. The blood sacrifice, freely given. A life laid down, freely, voluntarily, was necessary. But why exactly a blood sacrifice? Because a life freely given, laid down for all men, was absolutely necessary. Most men selfishly cling to life. In fact, most men would sacrifice everything to prolong their life here on this earth. The blood was necessary because in the blood is life. Yet it was the freely giving of that life, the freely shedding of that blood that we all might live. When the blood stops flowing, when the heart stops pumping, the blood stops flowing, everything dies. Where there is no shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin. Freely giving of that life-giving resource. The thing that keeps you alive was necessary to be shed that we might have life. Freely, voluntarily, without a doubt, given. That's why God had to come and do it. God so loved the world that he came, freely gave his life and his blood that we might live. He lived a perfect, sinless life so that that blood would keep pumping pure. That blood would keep pumping sinless, perfect. Nothing else could have saved us. For man is a born sinner, and that blood, our blood, is impure. That life, our lives, are tainted by sin. The rulers of the Jews, they wanted him dead because he was a threat to their power, their ambition, their money. They sent him to the cross. But they could not kill him. They could not have taken his life had he so decided not to give it. Had he so decided not to lay it down. He could have called 10,000 angels. He could have. He could have stopped him. He could have got up and walked away, and they couldn't have stopped him had he so chosen. He did it time and again when they put their hands on him to kill him, and he walked away from them because it wasn't his time. It is now his time. But he so loved the world that he freely laid down on that cross and gave up his veins, his blood. What word did he speak on that cross? He said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." Supposition, this is wholly me. So these next few is just something that I'm thinking. When Christ was on that cross, his Father looking at him. His Father seeing these people beat him. Seeing these people disrobe and hide his naked or show his nakedness to the entire world and nail him to that cross and put him and then mock him. The Son that came to die for them, and they are ungrateful. They are not saying thank you. Do you think God was mad about that? That they were touching his Son? Jesus said, "Forgive them." I've always looked at that as through the ages, forgive them. This morning I saw it more as forgive them. Don't strike them dead where they stand for laying their hands on me. Even in the midst of pain, every inch of your body screaming out, he's saying, do not requite this of them. Do not kill them where they stand. Forgive them for laying their hands on me, for this is necessary. Because if somebody was touching my child, and it was in my power, you can bet I'll stop them time and again. Is God any different? No, he's a loving Father. Jesus said, "Forgive them. Don't kill them where they stand." God was angry at the treatment of his Son, who had come and done no wrong except heal, except feed, except teach, and love. That was the wrong they were accusing him of. Christ's very words on the cross kept them from being killed where they stood. They knew not what they did. This was the sacrificial part. The life freely given, the blood freely spilt, a life perfect, unblemished, laid down, that life might come to us. He took the beatings, he took the rejection, he took the nails, he took the crown, he took the spear to the side, the crown of thorns, all of it. And here's the thing most of us often forget, and I say it a lot. It benefited him absolutely nothing. Anyone who got anything out of his death on the cross was us, not him. An unrequited love. For few there be that will find the narrow gate or walk the narrow path. And do you know why few? Because to find something, you must be looking for it. Few will look for the true way to God. They're going to look for a way around. They're going to look for a easier road. Few will look for the true way to God, to fellowship with the holy and righteous God. And why? Because it's hard. That's why. That is what it all boils down to. It's hard. He did it all. But he had to, because we never would have. Then he made it the easiest of things ever. He gave you a choice, and all you have to do is choose and live those lives. Chase after the world that does nothing but lead to destruction, or chase the God who loves you, who did it all for you, who gives you life. Seems easy. But that decision for us is the hardest thing we will ever do. And few, very few, will make that decision. That's unrequited love. He did all this, no benefit for him in it. He did all this and gave you a choice, and still we choose everything except him. He suffered, he bled, he died for all. Yet few will seek him. Few will follow him. Few will choose him. Few will appreciate and understand what he has done for them. Can you imagine that pain? Chasing, calling, loving, dying for them, and still constantly being rejected. He is a perfect, just, holy God. The choice is clear. Who will you choose? God, his holiness, his word, striving to be as him. We're never going to be perfect as he is. We strive for it here on this earth. Or are you going to chase after the world? A world that satisfies the flesh, satiates the immediate, gives false promises, has done nothing for you but take, and leads to destruction. You would think it's an easy choice. You would think so. But it's the hardest thing you will ever do. But no matter how hard it is, it's something you must do. Today, as you hear this choice, it is a must. For if you hear this and you do nothing, you've made your choice. And that choice is the world. Choose wisely. The consequences are eternal. One leads to life, but it has structures. It has boundaries. It recognizes a God who is greater than you and a God who is the focus. You are not. One leads to death. No structures, no boundaries, no rules where you answer only to you. Live how you want. Act how you want. But leads to destruction. And you're told that at the beginning. This leads to destruction. This leads to life. Choose one. One leads to heaven, to a life eternal with the God who so loved the world. One leads to hell, populated by all those who chose, air quotes, fun, with substances, immorality, selfishly wanting what they could get here in the temporal, only worried about this small little world while God's worried about the eternal. Love on the one side. Destruction is on the other side. Seems like an easy choice. It really does. But there are forces at work, and you can scoff at that if you want. There are forces at work, and they will do all they can to keep you from choosing him, because it's not natural to us. We were born in sin. The natural is the sin. Choosing him, very hard. It truly is a life and death struggle. And make no mistake, that life and death struggle is not hyperbole. It's real. It's true. It's fact. But choose you must. And when you think about all that God has done, when you think about all the rejection, when you think about all the pain, and not just the pain at the cross, but the pain from the rejection. When your child rejects you, it hurts. When your love rejects you, it hurts. It can break your heart when you think of the pain, the rejection that God has faced time and again. But we don't. For God so loved the world. An unrequited love story.